for this offer at Nike to do social media, I'd been working for the United Way at the same time, and the United Way had said, "Hey, we want you to lead our chapter going forward. So we want you to become the executive director. And there's one caveat of that. We want you to commit to 5 years
Mm,
being in the position." I was young. It was a relatively prominent position in the community, a lot of impact, a lot of things. They didn't want me jumping into that role and, you're gonna half in just being like, "Hey, great, thanks for the bump. I'm gonna go do something different."
yeah.
And that was totally fair. And so that offer came at basically the exact same time as the
Mm,
Nike offer came. And I really had to make a huge choice for my life. And I had some friends who leaned in with me to help me process and discern that. They put together what was called a clearness committee. And the clearness committee was really focused on helping me discern what I really wanted. And so they got together 8 of my friends that knew me the best. And they sat me in the center of a circle one night, and we went there for about 3 or 4 hours. And they just asked me question after question, like just trying to help me get really clear about what was most important to me. And when we left the night, I was really clear that I didn't want to do the work of the executive director at the United Way, not
mm,
because the organization wasn't important or the work wasn't valuable,
yeah.
because I wasn't great at asking people for money. And I didn't like asking people for money. And if you're the executive director of the United Way, you got to ask people for money
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah.
because that's how you help do the amazing work in the community. Versus me saying, "Hey, I really do want to go tell stories at Nike." And the difference was like, I was going to be a medium-sized fish in a small pond at the United Way, or I was going to be a tiny fish in a huge pond at Nike. And I had to make a choice just about for that season of my life, what was most important to me and what I want to go after. And ultimately, I said no to the United Way and said, "Hey, I'm going to give Nike a couple years and see what happens and see what opportunities unfold there."
Awesome. Uh, yeah. It's so cool that what was it called? The clarity committee?
The Clearness Committee.
The clearness committee. Wow. Have you done that since then? Have you done that exercise?
Not in that explicit of a form. I've done it in a
Mm-hmm.
couple smaller settings with a few
Yeah.
less guys. That one was really powerful because you had people who had known me, most of my life,
Yeah.
people I'd known 20 years at
Mm,
that point. And then you had people who had been new in my life. You had a guy who was in his 70s. You had a guy who was, there was different levels, and they all got to sort of pour in and give me reflect my questions and my answers back to them and try to
wow.
help me just see what was really most important.
Yeah. As you've gone through a couple different career transitions, it sounds like you've kind of used a form of that method again. What a powerful tool to go, hey, I'm like totally open here. I don't know. I really admire that, man, because there's so many, I feel like so many of us make decisions in a vacuum, especially around career or family or something like that. So to get people who have known you and seen you and know your story, and it gives you a chance to step outside of you for a second and go, what does John want in this next season?
Yeah, totally. And I didn't realize until literally right now when we're having this conversation, like ultimately my book that we're going to talk more about, right? My book is about helping people discern what's most important
Hmm.
to themselves. And so until we had this part about that part of my journey, and I do write about the Clearness Committee in the book, but I hadn't just thought about, oh man, I've really been striving for clarity about what's most important. I've been striving for that for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm really passionate about helping people find clarity for themselves in that so that they can make the best decisions possible to try to go after the thing they've said is most important.
Yeah. That's awesome. Let's talk about that. Like, where did this idea for the book come from? I know you have a really awesome email newsletter, and I love getting those and reading those. Was it the book that came first? Was it just sending emails, your own personal journey? Like, where did that start?
Yeah, the book is born out of me writing the newsletter, but the newsletter is born out of my personal journey, really with my dad passing away
Mm,
unexpectedly in 2020.
yeah.
And, I didn't set out to write a book when I started writing the newsletter.
Yeah.
What I found was I started writing the newsletter because I felt like my friends didn't have the same experiences as me, and thus they didn't have the same perspective as me. And my perspective and my experience was that both my parents were dead. I wasn't even 40 yet.
Mm,
And I had a different perspective on life because both my parents were no longer alive. And this
mm,
reality that life is short and you don't know how much time you get,